Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. So today I'm gonna be doing a DIY alignment in the garage here with a new tool I picked up. So recently I was looking at my tires and I noticed some uneven wear on the rear, and I realized I'm getting a bunch of toe wear. So I went ahead and picked up a new tool so we can measure toe and make adjustments if we need to. So stay tuned. So to do our DIY alignment today on the toe on this car, I decided to do the QuickTrick alignment kit right here, which comes with these poles right here. You bolt them all together, and then you have these little things on here that bolt 3 of them to your wheel, and it clamps it to the wheel, so it's much more secure. And then it comes with these 2 tape measures, so you can measure the toe on the front of your wheel and the back of your wheel and to see how well it lines up. And it comes with these little bungee cords right here to keep this thing attached to the wheel if you need to. I chose this kit over the actual plates that they have, which were a little bit cheaper, and you can get them on Amazon or eBay, just because the plates, after seeing how they worked and people using them, they actually just sit on the ground, kind of lay them against the wheel, where these ones actually come with these guys right here that you can actually clip to the wheel and clamp to the wheel, which for my wheel, you actually need this to make it hold better. You also have the option of using these caps right here to cap the end of those off and then put them against your alloy wheels that have like an inner lip that you can actually press out and wedge it in there, and then you use the bungee cords to hold it right up against the wheel. But for my car, I'm gonna use that to clip it onto the actual outside of the rim and then hold it on there with this just to make sure it's secure so I get a good measurement. As far as the overall quality of this, I read some reviews on Amazon before I bought these, and a lot of people complained about the finish and everything on here and just the burrs and everything on the edge of this extruded aluminum. Overall, it looks fine. I mean, it looks like a custom-made piece. Probably had a bunch of this bar and they just had it all cut down the length and machined or whatever just to get what you need with all the holes and everything. So it does look like some just custom local shop-made stuff, but overall, it's fine for what we need it for. It's a once in a while usage for our case. But overall, for 150 bucks or whatever I paid for this, I'm happy with it versus the regular plates that you buy on Amazon from like $60 to $100. They sell this kit in various sizes between, I think, 17 and 22 inch or larger wheels. I got the 17 inch to 20 inch version, but they do make a bigger one. It's a little bit more expensive for bigger wheels. Overall, this is all I need for all the wheels I use in my house, so it's good for my use. I think they sell a Pro version of this too. I'm not sure what the difference is with the Pro, but it's probably sturdier metal or better components, I guess. They also sell like a camber and caster set, which is not a set, it's actually one side because they assume that you're doing camber and caster one wheel at a time. But for our toe measurement, we need to have this on both sides of the car so we can measure the distance. So we got this thing all assembled. It's pretty self-explanatory where everything goes. These things right here bolt on with the Allen keys. You tighten it with the Allen. Up here, you have the knobs and everything, and that knob right there screws into this crossbar. And this top knob right here screws right into that peg. And pretty much that's really it for the assembly. Once you do that, you go over here and you can mount it onto the actual car. Just make sure you square everything up with your level. And then once we do that with the level, we make sure that this thing is square at the bottom here, and this thing right here is vertically square with the level. You could go ahead and put the little bungee cord they supplied you just to keep everything in one place when you're measuring, because what you're gonna be doing is putting the tape measure in and measuring across the bottom here, but you can see it kind of moves a little bit, so you wanna make sure everything is secure in here while you're measuring. So we're under the car right now, and recently when I was doing this control bar install down here, I noticed my tires were getting really bad. I already saw that they were getting pretty worn down, and I didn't really think anything of it. Then I looked at the date code that I was able to see while I was down here, and these things were only purchased like a couple months before I bought this car in 2020, and I probably had put less than 5,000 miles on it, and there's no way that I could have worn this much in less than 5,000 miles just because my front ones were like 2019 tires, and those things are still brand new with full tread on the inside and the outside. So I suspected there were some toe issues back here. And then I noticed when I was under here, when I was doing the install, if you look up there, that's the toe adjustment for this car. You can see the last time someone did an alignment here, they bent the little lip right here that has that offset bolt, that little spherical offset bolt, and it kind of wedges that to move the arm in and out. So it looks like it bent that thing out. So that's damaged right there. So it's not going in all the way, as you can see. So that's one issue right there that I noticed. You can see this is the other side of the tire, just as bad on the wear on there. These are a little bit over 2 years old now, and they have less than 5,000 miles, as I said. The wear pattern on these compared to the front is really bad just because of the toe. I suspect we're getting a lot of toe out because that's what's causing this inner tire wear. If it was toe in, it would be wearing on the outside more. All right, so I set it up and I took my measurements. It really helps if you have two people to do this, so that way you make sure nothing shifts and you're putting good tension on your actual measuring tape. I'm using my Harbor Freight measuring tapes just because they're a little bit thicker and stronger. So I can see my issue right now. Obviously, as you guys saw earlier with the tire wear on my thing, so the toe on both my wheels are actually going outward right now. So it's really fighting and wearing the hell out of my interiors. I think the old owner installed a camber kit on the rear, but he never got it aligned or anything because that toe is way off. So right now back here, I'm getting less than 73 inches back here, maybe 72 and like 5/8, a little short of 5/8. And on the front, I'm getting a little bit more than 73 inches, like 73 and a quarter, 73 and an eighth. So obviously that's a few degrees off with the front being wider than the rear right now. So we'll go ahead and adjust the toe, get everything within spec or at least square, and then see how well this measures up afterwards. I'm gonna go try their tape measures too, just to make sure the numbers are the same. All right, so the test with the tape measures that came with it give us about the same. So over here in the front, we're getting about 73 inches right there. Back side, we're getting a little bit less than 73, 72 and 5/8 or whatever that was. So one of the first things I'm gonna do is I'm gonna go ahead and just unbolt this thing. So I'm gonna see if I can get this thing in as far as I can to get the toe in after I make the measurements to see if I could close up the gap a little bit better. So one of the other things we gotta check too is back over here, you'll notice this thing's got an SBC camber kit. If you guys aren't aware of this camber kit, what you do is you basically have to open the hole on here wider. You put on this camber kit so you get more adjustment out of it. So the geometry of this suspension has already been changed. Now that we've got this camber adjustment, this arm might be too short for adjustment. So the first thing we need to do is see if we could push this thing all the way over and see what the toe measurement is once we do that. If you look on this side, you can see the toe measurement is almost all the way inward. There's a little bit more that can go to make it go all the way in. So one of the things with doing these DIY alignments is you need to find the center point of the vehicle, especially when you don't have a reference point. That way you can make sure when you measure the distance from the center of the vehicle to either side that you have a perfect equal distance on either side. That way the vehicle drives perfectly straight from the back. So what I did was I used this house level thing that I have here mounted on a tripod, and then I found the center point of the subframe, which on the IS300 has that little dot right here. That's the center point. I aimed it there, and then I used another straight reference point, which is the little stamp edge right here, and I just moved it perfectly there. So now I have a perfectly straight line down the center through the back of the vehicle, and everything looks like it goes perfect because all the straight lines I can see follow the same straight line as our laser. So I'm gonna mark 2 spots down here with the Sharpie, and that's gonna be my reference point to measure either side when I'm under here with the suspension loaded. So to make adjustments easier, what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna put my big old jack stands right here, these 10-ton jack stands, onto the suspension with that wood block there, just to compress the suspension so I can actually get this thing to simulate the ride height and the right toe setting so we can actually make the adjustments and see what the measurements are. So that idea didn't work too well. The back of this car is too light. Once I put that weight on here and I lower the jack down, the front wants to tilt forward and it wants to lift off the rear arm. So that's not gonna work for this setup. All right, to start off with, what we wanna do is loosen the block nut on the outside. It's a 19 millimeter. Loosen that up. And once you do that, this inside swivel bolt thing right here, it's, I believe, a 22 millimeter. I don't have a 22 to test it out, but I do have a 23, which fits into there loosely. So we'll go ahead and try using this to kind of turn the cam.
So yeah, it moves inside there. So we want to move it the other direction to move it in more, but as you can see, that lip right here being bent like that, it doesn't put any pressure on it to move it inward. Yeah, because all it's doing is going over there. So really what you have to do is kind of loosen this thing out, get it out of the way, and then probably have to manually push the wheel in from the outside to see if it shifts in more.
All right. So when I grab the wheel and move it, I could feel it moving, that arm moving in and out. So I know it's making the adjustment when I do this. So I just need to just try to push it in all the way, and hopefully that gets us a good adjustment on this. We'll take this thing all the way off just to see the, one thing you see, this thing, it actually goes in only one way on here with the bolt. So we'll definitely have to order some new arms just to get better adjustment out of it, just because of the way this thing is. All right, one of the things I noticed when I was looking at the back bolt here, I think this thing might be twisted 180 degrees because this bolt has a groove on top and bottom. And if it's twisted 180 degrees, it's gonna not line up correctly on the back side and the front side. So when you make the adjustments, it won't do anything. So I'm gonna go ahead and try to turn this thing back to see if I can flip it around. Because the cam bolt right now is kind of hanging off the edge, even though we're supposed to be all the way in. I think I got it in as far as I could. It's not going anymore, but what I noticed is this cam bolt, it only fits in one direction. If you try to flip it 180 degrees the other way, the grooves aren't the same size, so they won't go in. So it goes in one direction. But once I put it in there, it wedges it right against this little bump on the inside, and then it goes all the way to the outside there. So I'm gonna just go ahead and tighten this down, and hopefully our toe is in on this one like it's supposed to be. So on the other side, I just took the nut apart just to see how far it is in, and it looks like it's almost all the way in, just like the other side. So hopefully that minor adjustment over there straightens the toe out, but we'll go ahead and get this all back together and measure and see where we're at on the number. So if you guys remember before, on this side we were past 73 inches. Now we're only at 72 and 5/8 on this side, and on the back side we were about the same, and we're still there. We're a little bit over what we are in the front right now. So this side is about 72 and 3/4 inch. So we've definitely towed it in more. So this is pretty good for what it is now. I made sure that the whole line is taut and everything is flush on the wheel on both sides, so that make sure I get this measurement right. But I think we're pretty good here. I can make small adjustments just to kind of get it dialed in perfectly, but I think this is a perfect toe in right now. I gotta do the measurements and the calculations to see where I'm at. All right guys, after doing a little bit of studying and busting out my trigonometry skills from like 7th or 8th grade, I figured it out. So my measurements were 3/4 inch in the back here and 11/16 inch up front. That gives me about a 1/16 of an inch difference. So you divide that by 2, assuming it's equal on both sides. So that's 1/32. So 1/32 gets me this triangle right here. So to solve for that angle, you take the tangent of the angle equals the opposite over adjacent. To figure out that angle, you do a little bit of trigonometry. You take an inverse tangent of that number right there, and it gets you 0.052 degrees toe in, which is well within spec for this car. All right, another tool I picked up for this alignment is this camber and caster measuring tool right here that's magnetic, and it sticks to your rotor or your wheel. So one of the things that it does is it's got this little knob on the bottom that lets you zero it out. So you just basically have to put it on something that you want to reference as a perfect 90 degrees, and then you want to adjust it just to zero it out here first before you use it on the actual wheel. I had it zeroed out on my toolkit, and I'm checking it on my lift, and we're right at 0 here. So I'm trusting this as my reference at 0 degrees. So I'm checking my rear driver's wheel. So what you want to do is just put it on here, twist it or rotate it, and just get this bubble level right here, 0, to make sure it's flat. I'm at about -3 degrees on the rear driver. So we'll go to the other side and check that too. So there's the rear passenger side right now, and we're about the same back here, -3 degrees. which I'm surprised it's this far negative considering there's a camber kit on here. Maybe I need to adjust that camber kit out, but I'll do that another day. So my original problem was really the rear wheels as far as the alignment goes, but since I've already got the car up on the lift and everything, I'm gonna go ahead and check the front to see how the toe is on this setup. I haven't had any tire wear issues on the front. As you can see, that's plenty of tread here, no camber wear, no inside tire wear. So I assume the front is nice and straight, but I'm gonna go ahead and just measure it anyways. So we got our measurements, and the back side here, we got about 73 and 5/8. Over here on the front, we've got about 73 and 7/8. So we've got a little bit of toe out on the front right now. So I might have to adjust that in a little bit just to make sure I don't wear too much tire up front. So to adjust the toe up front, it's pretty easy. So you got your steering tie rod right here. Just loosen that nut, use another wrench to turn this thing. And for this minor adjustment I have, all I have to really do is just turn this thing maybe like a half turn or a quarter turn just to move the tie rod outward more. So that way I can close in the toe and do a toe in. So before we start, I'm just gonna go ahead and mark the spots right now with a Sharpie so I can know where I'm at as far as the bolt and the actual arm and everything, so I don't go too far when I'm turning this baby. So right there, I've just marked enough so I know which direction I'm going. Go ahead and do the same on the other side. To get started, we'll go ahead and loosen the lock nut. That's going to be a 19 millimeter, and then in here is going to be a 14 millimeter to adjust it. So even when we turn that, you see that thing turn the whole rod with it. So right now we want to go make this side longer anyway, so I'm gonna go a quarter turn up. So I'm gonna go ahead and go just do, right now we're about a half turn. So one of the things you gotta do is also turn your boot. It might be easier just to take the clamp and remove this clamp so you can turn the boot without destroying it. So I went ahead and did one full rotation on the turn. I took this thing off with a plier so I could turn the boot, and I'm gonna go ahead and just tighten it down right here. I'm gonna do one full turn on that side, and hopefully this gets us enough toe in so we can just drive like this. So this nut right here is pretty much stuck on that arm. I'm gonna have to spray it with some WD-40 or something, let it loosen, but we'll go ahead to the other side. Loosen the clamp right here for the boot first so it doesn't spin on me. If you guys have problems with your boot, I have a cool video where I was able to put this thing in without loosening any of this or messing up my alignment. All right, so we looked at it, and the rear is at 74 inches right now, and the front is 73 and a half. So we're about a ½ inch difference, which is a ¼ inch on either side. I think that's way too much toe in. I have to do the calculation on that, but I think I have to jack it back up, adjust it inward, and get it back closer to 0. All right, we got it half a turn now, so I had to turn it back a half a turn from the full turn I did. So in the rear right now, we're getting 73 3/4. And in the front, we're getting about the same, 73 3/4. So this is exactly at 0 toe, which is exactly what I wanted. So this is pretty good right now. I'm gonna go ahead and take everything apart and go road test this baby and see how it is. All right, now that I got the front toe adjusted properly, I'm gonna check the camber using my camber tool I used earlier on the rear. So right now, after I zeroed it out right here to make sure that it's level, I'm getting about -2.5, maybe -2.25 degrees on the driver's side. So over here I'm on the passenger side now of the front, and this side's -4 degrees, which is crazy. I didn't think the camber is off that bad over here. Maybe the factory camber adjustment is not adjusted on the side, but I assume the last owner adjusted it. But yeah, that's crazy, -4 degrees. This is a pretty cool tool. It's good for just spot checking your camber and everything. I have this in the links down in the description to Amazon. It's like $10 or $12. Plus I'll have the tow kit that I'm using also, the link to that. But go ahead and check that out. This thing also is supposed to do caster, but that's way out of my league on trying to measure caster, and I'm not sure how you do that with this, because caster just measures the tilt angle from vertical, which I don't know how this can measure that. So after a quick road test, I realized that the wheel is kind of crooked to the left now. It's about right here on the position to go straight. So what I'm about to do is make an adjustment on this arm, so that way I could put it back over towards the right. So I have to make the adjustment on both sides to go that same direction, so this thing will straighten out. Hey guys, thanks for watching all the way to the end of this video. I was able to dial in that front toe, so now my wheel goes straight. I went and took it on a test drive and everything drives perfect. The steering was nice and tight. A slight toe adjustment on the front made the steering feel nice and tight. For the rear suspension, it's a little bit still suspect. I'm gonna go ahead and just order some new toe arms. I'm gonna do a separate video on installing those toe arms and making that adjustment. I just felt that with that little damage on that hole, that the alignment on the rear is kind of off. So I'm gonna go ahead and just order those toe arms so we can have another adjustment, an easier toe adjustment on the rear. If you guys found this video useful, give it a thumbs up. If you haven't subscribed to your channel to stay on top of all my different projects, whether it's on the IS250, the IS300, the Sienna, or whatever I'm doing around the garage, go ahead and subscribe to your channel. Turn on bell notifications to stay notified every time I upload a video. Remember guys, for all these different projects, if I can do it, you guys can do it. I want to thank you for watching, and I'll talk to you guys next time.